Question. You said in your opening remarks that the Biden administration continues to work towards a ceasefire. You gave, readouts, or actually you didn't give full readouts, but you noted the phone calls that the secretary has had in recent days that are driving towards that outcome. But from the perspective of us, it does seem like that effort is a little bit stalled right now, as you guys are waiting to watch what Israel does militarily. Would you reject that conclusion, or?
So the only thing I would reject about the way you phrase the question is our efforts are not stalled while we wait to see Israel's military operations. We continue to push for a ceasefire in Gaza, but you have to have the parties come to a table, and it remains the case, as has been the case for some time, that Hamas has been unwilling to engage in a meaningful way with the mediators, with Qatar and Egypt. And I will say that refusal by Hamas to engage in a meaningful way predates the start of Israeli operations in Lebanon. But if you just look at the things that Hamas has publicly said for some time, they have been hoping for a wider regional war. They have been hoping for a wider escalation of this conflict. They've wanted to see Hezbollah come into the conflict. They've wanted to see the other Iranian proxy groups come into the conflict. They've wanted to see Iran come into the conflict. So they will have to assess why it is they refuse to engage or they would have to speak to why it is they refuse to engage meaningfully on a ceasefire that would in every way alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people. But I don't think it's any secret that they have long wanted to see Israel under attack from other directions as well as just from inside Gaza.
And is there any latest ceasefire proposal that you're waiting for Hamas to respond to right now?
No, that's not exactly. I'm pausing only because I went through some of this, but it's probably on a day that you weren't here. Where we've been, no, it's quite all right. So there was a ceasefire proposal that we put forward. There was then a bridging proposal that we put forward. The bridging proposal had a number of implementation agreements that were going to have to be worked out, and we had been engaged in a process where we were talking with the Israelis about what proposals we could put forward that would get them to yes, and the other mediators, Qatar and Egypt, had been talking about what proposals they could put forward to Hamas that would get Hamas to the yes. The idea being you look for the Venn diagram between those two parties that would get you an ultimate agreement. And several weeks ago, Hamas just started refusing to engage in any meaningful way about what things they might be willing to accept.
And you haven't heard from them in weeks?
So the Egypt and Qatar would have to speak to their communications with Hamas. I can't speak to whether they're talking with the Hamas officials outside Gaza or not. I'm sure that they have some regular communications that I won't speak to. But we have not heard from them in any meaningful, substantive way when it comes to the ceasefire proposals on the table in weeks.